Good evening, everyone. My name is Ellen Hermanson, and I serve as the Alumni Engagement Manager for the Milgard School of Business. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight to watch the first panel in a three-part series highlighting the Milgard Centers. Tonight, we will be hearing all about the Milgard Success Center and the amazing work that they are doing for our students, alumni, and the greater community. Before we get started, the Interim Dean of the Milgard School of Business would like to welcome you to this event and share a few words. Please welcome Dean Merchant.
Thank you very much, Ellen, and good evening. I'm Altaf Merchant. I'm the Interim Dean of the Milgard School of Business. Welcome to our inaugural alumni event. And what is unique and exciting is this is the first event of our new alumni office. The goal of this office is really, at its core, to maintain relationships with our alumni and to nurture the connections and bonds that we have with our students. Always remember, we are here for you. Our relationship is not only nostalgic, but it's also about how can we help you keep growing in your careers. We have planned a series of events based on the survey feedback which you have given us. Today, as I said, is our first event, and the topic today is career success and career planning. Please note that the services of the Milgard Success Center are also available to our alumni, and that's for free. Right? This is a free service that we're giving. They can help you write your resume, connect you with employers, help you prepare for interviews, and provide career advice. I'm delighted to introduce our panelists for the evening. Our first panelist is Ellen Hermanson, who is our Alumni Engagement Manager, and our very own Trish Zander, who's the Executive Director of our Success Center. I would also like to give a huge shout out to Kevin Dugan, who's our Senior Director for Development. Now to our exciting panelists. Our panelists are all alumni of the Milgard School. We have Danen Spate, Philemon Yeboah, Deanne Inman, Manla Kaunda, Kevin Kors, and Joel Juka. I remember many of you from my marketing class. At least I think 4 of you I remember from my marketing class. I'm so proud to see all that you have accomplished. And I'm sure you're going to be accomplishing so much more. I would now like to quote Frank Sinatra, and I'm a big fan of Frank Sinatra. The best is yet to come. Onward and forward. Go Huskies. Over to you, Ellen.
Thank you, Dean Merchant, for that warm welcome to our panelists. Let's go ahead and get started for the evening. Next, I'd like to introduce my co-moderator, who Dean Merchant just mentioned, the Executive Director of the Milgard Success Center, Trish Zander. Trish has been an integral part of building the Milgard Success Center into what it is today and expanding its reach across our student body in Milgard. She is the go-to career connection in the Milgard School of Business, and I think that Trish knows just about everybody. I'll now turn it over to Trish to give us an overview of the Milgard Success Center and to share about the resources and services it provides to our students and our alumni. Please welcome Trish Zander.
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you for coming tonight, I think, and giving us the opportunity to talk about the Success Center. Believe it or not, we have now been open. We're starting our 4th year in the Success Center, and it's just like starting any business, any new organization. It's been a very uphill climb. Jim Milgard came into my office when we were opening, and he said, "How are you going to start?" And I said, "One by one. We need to form relationships with employers. We need to encourage engagement from students, and we need to reach alumni. We have, and in all of that, we need to build a reputation. So we needed to do it right. So in 2017, we opened. There were 2 of us, myself and Sally Schwartz, and just a really short bio about me is I have, it was hard to add up. I have nearly 40 years of business experience. It's a lot in both private and public. I worked at Microsoft for 15 years. I started my own business. And I've been at the University of Washington now for 12 years in different capacities. I have a lot of experience. What do we do? What do we do in the Success Center? Althoff did a nice job of rolling that out. Career everything. As an alumni, you may need advice. You may be changing careers. You may be seeking a promotion. As an employer, you may need to recruit students. You may want to develop a new internship. We do all of that. But let me go back to employees let me go back to alumni for a minute. I see you engaging in three ways: as an individual, as an employer, and as a participant like we see today. So as an individual, like I said, you may want some help. We have resources, we have Handshake, we have a video platform for interview practice. We have LinkedIn resources for you. So we have a lot of resources, let alone just coming in and meeting with Sally or I. Coming in is now Zoom, but we've adopted and adapted very quickly to this. As an employer, we have virtual fairs. So all of you work at some entity. We work with the state, we work with public, we work with private industry. You can recruit, you can bring your loyal selves back to Milgard and bring your example back to our students. You can talk to them at Lunch and Learns. You can participate in the Success Conference, which many of you have already been a part of. So there are just so many ways that I'd like to see you participate, but mostly to do that, I want you to hear from our panelists tonight because they have all engaged in some way at some point in their lives, in their student lives. So thank you again for listening tonight, and I'm going to turn it back over to Ellen.
Wonderful. Thank you, Trish, for that introduction. And now the time has come for us to welcome our 6 panelists who are all Milgard alumni. So since we can't just go left to right like we would in a normal panel, because we're here on Zoom, I'll just one by one call each of you out by name, and then you'll have a few minutes to share about yourself. So in your introduction, please tell us where you work and what your relationship has been with the Milgard Success Center in the past. So if you were a student or an alumni who came back to seek help from Trish and Sally, we'd love to hear about that. Basically, just tell us your story. We'd love to know why this interaction was meaningful to you or important to you and what impact it had on your career or your place of employment. As a side note to our viewers, if you have questions for our panelists throughout this event, please email them to milgardevents@uw.edu. That will flash across the screen periodically to remind you. So without further ado, I will introduce Deneen Steth. She is a BABA, so Bachelor of Arts in Business Administration alum from 2007. And Deneen, take it away.
Okay, so I wasn't sure if we were going to have to say what year we graduated, but yes. So I was a grad in 2007. I was in the accounting concentration, and I'm sad to say that the Milgard Success Center didn't exist when I was on campus. I wish it did. It would have made life a lot easier for us back then. So my actual interaction with the Success Center to date has actually been more from the professional side. So I work for Providence St. Joseph Health. I'm the system director over strategic finance for them. And this last year, well, I guess it hasn't even been a year yet. It was earlier in 2020. It feels like a year ago. We recently launched a finance development program, so rotational program for new grads at Providence. And And so we identified a couple campuses that we would begin recruiting from. And of course, UW-Tacoma was on that list. And so I went right to the Success Center and started working with both Trish and Sally on bringing that program to campus, promoting it on campus to students. Of course, right in the middle of our recruiting efforts, we went into lockdown and COVID happened. And but we were able to quickly, they helped us switch over to online and recruiting that way. And we launched the program this summer. And now I'm actively working with Trish on already starting to recruit for next year. So we've done some lunch and learns. We've participated in the Meet the Professionals in partnership with the Association of Student Accountants. And we're involved in the career fairs and stuff during the year too.
Great. Thank you, Deneen, for that introduction. Next, we have Philemon Yaboa, and Philemon is an MBA grad from 2018.
Hi, thank you very much, Ellen. My name is Philemon Yaboa. I was born in Ghana and I moved here in 2013. So I engaged with the Milgard Success Center when I was a student, and after graduation too, I came back as an alumni. So when I was a student, I tried to attend most of the career development workshops that they organized. And I also worked with Trish and Sally to develop my resume and talk about my interests and passions and what I wanted to do, after school. So when I graduated, I also, came back because I found the job I'm doing right now on the state website, and I contacted Trish that, hey, there's this job, the financial examiner job on the state website, and I want to apply for it. And she's like, oh yeah, I think it aligns very much with your interests. So she connected me to Sally, and I started working on my resume and, writing up a cover letter to apply for the job. Fortunately, I got in, and now I'm a financial examiner with the Washington State Department of Financial Institutions. Very, very cool job. It really aligns with my passions and my interests. So I really enjoy what I do. And even after getting the job, I still, reach out to them when I see other opportunities and talk to them about my interests and where I want to take my career to, And yeah, they've been really helpful to me in terms of, crafting up new resumes for other opportunities and also, doing mock interviews. I remember when I was applying for this job that I'm doing now, I came to the office twice for mock interviews with Trish and Sally. And it was really eye-opening, and some really interesting things came up, which helped me very much in my interview process. So yeah, I look forward to continue working with them and developing my career. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Philemon. Great stories. Next, we have Deanne Iman, and she was an accounting graduate from our Bachelor of Arts in Business Administration degree in 2019. Deanne.
Thanks, Ellen. I first came into the Success Center late in my junior year, and was fortunate to have help with Sally on my resume as I tried to gear up to find an internship to join in my senior year. That was a great success. I feel like they really helped me. I have a non-traditional background. I came in with a lot to squash onto one piece of paper, and I felt like they knew exactly how to help me perfect my resume and get geared up for a whole new life of job hunting in a whole new world for me. I also had their help quite a bit during my senior year in a leadership position with the Accounting Association, starting, before the year even began, with getting in contact with incoming students and really trying to get messages out that were important with, the job search and Meet the Professionals and some big events that happened right away during the school year. So the Success Center was a vital part of making that a successful year for the Accounting Association as well. And so important in preparing everybody for the early interview process with a lot of accounting roles. Sally and Trish also were very important because I felt like I needed extra help in gearing up to move into public accounting, which is where I'm at now. I'm a public auditor for Johnson Stone and Pagano. I did my internship my first year in public accounting as well. And since then have reached back out and got a little bit more help from them to update my resume. And I recently started here with Johnson Stone and Pagano. So as alumni, they've continued to be super important to me and very valuable. So I couldn't thank them enough for all of the help that I've received from them. But it's definitely been an important part of my career growth and my path with the professional help that they've given me.
Thank you, Deanne, and congrats on that role. Next, we have Mandla Kaunda, and Mandla is a double Milgard grad. He graduated with his undergraduate accounting degree in 2015 and also his Master of Accounting in 2016.
Hi, so my name is Mandla, as you heard, and I'm a tax consultant with Deloitte. I graduated in 2015 and I did my master's shortly after in 2016. I will say that when I was at the UW around that time, I think the concept of the Milgard Center was just spread out all over the campus. So a lot of the resources were available, but it's great to know that they've been consolidated into this amazing center. I remember having career advisors that would help us with our resumes, and my resume is still the same resume that I prepared. So just generally, the career advice that we were getting on campus from, so all those services were just available to us at that time, but they were not consolidated. So we had to go in different places to get that. And I the Husky jobs or all the programs that were on campus at the time. So I would say this center is a great center, and I look forward to using it in future as well when I need it. I haven't moved my job or changed jobs since, so but it's definitely a place that I would come to when I need to use it again in future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mandla. Our next panelist is Kevin Kors. Kevin graduated with his undergraduate degree in finance in 2019. Welcome, Kevin.
Thank you. And first off, I just want to thank everyone for putting this on. I think it's a great program, and I love what you guys are doing with it, and I'm glad to be a part of it. Also, side note, special shout out to Deanne Iman, because we were definitely classmates in possibly the hardest class I ever took at UWT in Finance 350. We spent many a long hours slaving away page after page, problem after problem. So I just want to say hi real quick. And, sometimes you see students or classmates and friends all over. So it's good to see her again. But my experience started out junior year summer coming into my senior year. I think all roads kind of start with Sally, the resume help. And then with that resume help, I was able to get an internship. And I mean, for me personally, I was exposed to a world of finance and wealth management and financial advising I never knew about. And it was because of that internship. And I mean, honestly, I took walks every day on campus, and I just happened to walk by the center all the time. I was like, you know what, let's see what this is about. And opened a whole new world of networking and methods of, professional development I wasn't doing on my own. So it's been a great experience so far. But as that progressed, I wasn't doing any of the mock interview help yet. But once I had my first interview May of my senior year, graduating in June, I had my first interview at I think it was a job down in Lacey. And I had no training, no help at all. And the lady sits there and she goes, "So what makes you so special?" I was mortified. absolutely more scared. And I was like, you know what? I need to get some help. So started going back into the Success Center, started getting that help, and then started developing more of a relationship with Trish because I took an Excel certification after I graduated because didn't have a job coming out, knew I needed to keep learning and educating myself. And so Trish was a big force in helping me find the position I'm at now. I'm a research analyst at Thomas Capital Group out in Gig Harbor, and still in the finance industry and sector, and I love it. And I mean, to see the guidance that they really provide for you in the Success Center really taught me a lot of stuff about myself that I didn't know, I was really capable of, as far as networking, reaching out to people. And what I would tell any business student, LinkedIn is your best friend, absolute best friend. I was reaching out to people all the time. I still am, just for knowledge, general conversations, and kind of broke out of my shell in a sense once I was really hitting the ground running trying to find a job. So it's meant a lot to me, and it's been a great experience so far, and I'm glad to stay involved. So thank you.
Great, thanks, Kevin. Great stories, and I'm glad you found the Success Center. Our final panelist is Joel Juka, and Joel graduated from the Milgard MBA program in 2010. So welcome, Joel.
Hello, thank you. Let's see here. Yes, I graduated in 2010. And when I came in to the Milgard School to get working on my MBA, I was a CPA. And I fell in love with marketing there. And it was actually Altaf who kind of fostered that love of marketing. And marketing is, the heart of strategy. And so fast forward 10 years, I'm a management consultant with a little consulting firm up in Seattle. We've got about 8,000 consultants. We're called Solom Consulting. We focus on strategy, technology, and business transformation. And I regularly come back to the Milgard School, and I moderate I speak with students. I moderate the panel I have the past few years of the Marketing Careers panel, where students come in 15 or 20, and they, kind of throw their questions at us, and we try to answer as best we can. And the Success Center, has a great lineup of, folks from Boeing and healthcare industry marketers with a lot of experience who can help answer the students' questions. I regularly meet with students to give them whatever advice I can. It's it's free, so you get what you pay for. But try to give them my 2 cents on helping them navigate their careers. And Slalom also has grown. In the past 3 years, we've hired 3,000 consultants. So we're a very rapidly growing firm. And so for me as an employer, I manage a team of consultants, and I'm on the leadership team up in Seattle. And for me, the Success Center is a great tie-in to tap the talent of UW-Tacoma. Because I know the quality of the students are very high caliber. I know the education they're getting is a high caliber education. And so I want my company to have a first shot at the great talent coming out of there. And I love the mission of, the Success Center, and that giving back and the wanting to help. My company's purpose is to help others reach for and realize their vision. And I think the Success Center is doing exactly that. So I think our values are aligned. And one little fun fact, Deneen Spaeth can deadlift more than 300 pounds. So, give her a shout out if you can.
Thanks, Joel. All right. So now that we've met all of our panelists, I'm going to invite Trish back to help moderate some follow-up questions.
Okay, so one thing, thank you all for telling your stories. We have just, over the past 3 years, developed hundreds of wonderful stories, and have reached out to alumni over and over again to help us. And so thank you for coming back. Many of you, I feel like I'm overusing you to some extent. But thank you for returning. One thing that I think Joel just said and Mandla touched on is one thing I do and what has been offered by alumni is to talk to our students and Deneen as well. There have been others, Judy Griffin, who's on the MEC board. A student will come in and want to do an informational, and I find that sending them, I mean, they can talk to me, you know, for a long time, but sending them out to the industry to talk about the industry, sending a student to talk to Mandla or to communicate with him on LinkedIn. I recently sent someone over to Joel, an MSBA student, who really was trying to find a good fit for his resume, and I can't do that for everyone. So reaching out to alumni is my favorite thing to do. And Deanne was very, very strong leadership with the ASA, and she has wonderful stories of her trek, I guess I would call it, through interviews and getting the job. And that's where I am right now with students is how do I answer this question? How do I speak well? So I don't know if I touched on it, but we did engage in a platform called The Big Interview recently, and it's a video platform so students can go and do their practice mock interviews in video form. It's hard to do. I tried it. I don't like watching myself, and I don't like, hearing myself, but it is a great training for you to get ready for your interview. So I hope, Deneen, that you see some students that are presenting well in next week when you have them come in for interviews. But it's also available to alumni. So just so you know, everything is out on the Milgard website, Milgard Success Center website. So you can go and utilize all of these resources as well as the Success Center. But I'd entertain any questions from any of you about anything. You did a great job of covering your engagement with the Success Center, and Philemon touched on his interview and mock interview. We had a lot of fun with Philemon and getting him ready for his Washington State interview. We have a lot of fun. Sally and I do getting students ready. We miss the close interaction and the students hanging around and hanging out in our offices that would come back and have their lunches there. The Success Conference is another place where I love, and Joel touched on it, I'd love to have students or alumni come and help us with that. We need the industry people to come in and tell the stories better than we can tell them. And so the pathway panels that we have at the Success Conference is a fabulous way for an alumni to participate. Last year we had a finance panel, a marketing panel, an accounting panel, and a management panel. All were alumni. All had 4 or 5 and even 6. And it was it was better. Every year gets better, and we have a moderator that leads the group. So I'm looking forward to that. We'll probably do it in May or June, and whether it's in person or not, of course, we don't know yet.
Trish, we got a follow-up question from the audience that kind of ties into what you were talking about with Big Interview. And any alum who's listening can also jump in. What do you hear from employers as being the top 3 traits that help make a student successful in an interview?
Oh, that's a really good question. It's a hard one. Might have some of you employers. I think answering the question, tell me about yourself, is one of the hardest questions that you all get it in an interview, but answering it and answer it succinctly and not going off the charts. I've been working with a couple of students just the last couple of days who just got offers. So it's really fun, to work through that. But they're getting some hard questions. And how, tell me something about your weakness. Where are you weak? And that's a hard question to answer. About your strengths. And one student really stumbled on, give me 3 adjectives that a peer would describe you, not a boss, but a peer. And she got all shook up because her friends are way different than her bosses or teachers. And she went off the rails on that question and did not get offered back. And she knows that she really did not answer that well. And but she said it was just such a great learning opportunity. So the top 3 in Big Interview, they're the top 10. They're the top 10 questions that you should answer. And it's great practice. And those of you that interview, Deneen, Joel, Mandla, I don't know if you do, but you may have some other comments about that.
I don't know if it's the top questions, but the way folks respond, I think it's really important, and I know my colleagues do, to tie your answers back to the values of the company. And it's one thing to use the STAR technique and say how you meet that job criteria. But if you're able to tie that back to and align your values, the values of what you did with the values of the company, I think that's a standout way to do it. And being able to call that out, it shows that you're going above and beyond.
Yeah, and I would say not getting into specific questions, but I would say that 2 traits that I think are valuable are your ability to be succinct, because I think sometimes the nerves you'll tend to ramble. So trying to be succinct, and then the second would be the confidence piece. I think especially when you're working with folks that are interviewing right out of school. We ask a lot of situational. Tell me about a time when. Give me an example of a time when you did this. Tell me about a time when you did that. And sometimes we find with students that they struggle to find the examples because they don't have as much of the work history and things like that. So they can't necessarily make those connections. And so one of the things I'll tell people is it doesn't have to be a work situation. We've all had interpersonal communication conflicts with our family, with our friends, with, volunteer work that you've done, things like that. So I would tell people to prepare for some of those things. Those tell me about a time when. Think about group projects you've been on and things that have gone well and not well. Think about things where you've been successful. Have some examples in your mind, because then what ends up happening is we'll ask a bunch of situational questions and they get stuck on this one example. There was this one project, and then they make that project fit with every situation going forward because they can't think of anything else. So those would be my 2, is kind of think about those examples and broaden your experience is broader than you give yourself credit for, and then be succinct, which is the opposite of what I was with that answer to that question.
So that was really great information. Thank you, Joel and Deneen, for your answers. Trish, we have some more questions coming through from the audience, and I can ask them if that works for you.
Yeah, unless the panel has any questions or comments that they'd like to add in here, but I think it'd be great if we can answer some questions out there, because we don't see them. So
yeah, I know I have the secret questions here. So I guess for those of you who were recently a student or an undergrad, we have, I think, a question from a current student. What advice would you give to a student who just joined Milgard as a junior? So I'll let anybody take a stab at that. Yeah.
My advice would be for any new student to just get involved and get as involved as you can. I know it's difficult right now with the virtual reality of our world today, but I know that for example, in Milgard in the accounting program, the accounting association meetings gave so much information to students, brought people to ask themselves and others questions they didn't even think to ask before some of those meetings. And it's the same whether you get involved there on campus with that particular organization or another, or through certain scholarship organizations, or the professional certification that you can get through the Success Center. Absolutely get involved with your peers and with the school itself in as many ways as you possibly can, because it will open doors that you haven't even realized exist. So that would be my first advice for any new student.
If I could chime in there, just a caveat, that was first what I wanted to say is just get involved as much as you can. I didn't really get more involved until going into my senior year. And if I would have done it junior year, I could have, probably had another internship under my belt. But also on top of getting involved in campus and everything, don't be afraid to reach out to your professors, even though it's online now. I mean, for me personally, I was always trying to talk to professors after class and whatnot, but now, try and schedule a phone call of interest. You never know what types of, nuggets of knowledge or inspiration they could give you just from talking about your interests, or even if you don't know what you want to do, it's very helpful. And also not being afraid to just reach out to people in the community, friends who might know people, just informational phone calls, emails, anything like that, anything to just gain that much more perspective, because that's what's helped me along my way. And I know it helps a lot of other people.
Great advice. And there's a question that kind of piggybacks off of that for Kevin and others. What is a good way to reach out to people on LinkedIn as a cold call to introduce yourself? And Kevin, can you talk more in general about your experience on LinkedIn? So I know it's a huge tool that everybody's using now. And so we're just curious about what the best techniques would be for doing that kind of cold calling.
Absolutely. Well, one thing is I keep trying to tell my friends who just finished school to do the same thing. And, if people aren't comfortable reaching out to people like that, they're like, well, and and I'm just like, well, you're not asking for a job necessarily. So I'd say my advice is when you're reaching out to someone, let them know, hey, my name is such and such, I'm interested in this type of company or this type of industry. Is there any information that you can share with me, or can you tell me about your experience working there or how you got there? And then if you really want to, kind of shoot your shot, ask them if they'd be willing to do an informational phone call. I've gotten interviews that way. I've built relationships off of that. And even if nothing becomes of it, not, jobs aside, interviews aside, you're networking. So someone who, stands out like that, they're going to remember you going forward when if you talk to them in the future or you run into them down the line, they're going to know, oh, wow, I had a great experience with this person, let's collaborate depending on what jobs we have, or, just knowing that, there's other, standout people in the community like that. So that would be my way is, kind of go the informational route, because people don't like getting hit up, being asked for jobs. I've tried it, then you don't want to do it. But that would be my approach, or, advice for anyone like that.
I could add on to that, because I was going to say it to the last question, is really like, don't be afraid to play the I'm a student card. Like, I encourage folks to play that card as long as you possibly can. And then once you get a new job, you play the, hey, I'm new here job card, and you ride that as long as you can. I'm a huge, huge supporter of informational interviews. And to be honest, the folks that are in our finance rotation program right now, that's the homework I give all of them is I want you to do X number of informational interviews before the next time we meet. So play that card while you're a student, play it on LinkedIn, like Kevin said, cold call, cold email folks on their websites for companies that you're interested in. People like to talk about themselves. And they like to talk about what they do. So, you might throw out a couple lines, and you're going to have someone that's going to grab. So play that card.
I would say, as an add-on to that, what has worked for me over time is using a third party, kind of bouncing off of someone that I know. That has been helpful too. So if because LinkedIn invites have become more like an invitation to be followed or to follow someone, and so they end up losing their substance eventually. If you just invite me to connect with you, I'll just say yes and I'll just let it go. But if you come through a person that I know and you say, hey, I would like you to introduce me to this person, I'm interested in this line of work, and that's how I did it. I if I could put it that way, is that I found out a friend was working at Deloitte, and and they'd come over. They were best friends with my wife when they were kids, and she had come over to see my baby, and I said, hey, you work for Deloitte, can you connect me with someone? And she said, yeah, I'll find someone in Seattle that you can talk to. And so using your network that way sometimes can be helpful, because the person that recommends you almost vouches for you in a way. And so you become a more standout and more trusted candidate than just an invitation to be followed or to follow someone. That's my 2 cents on that.
Right. And one thing I wanted to say, I think it's based on what Kevin reminded me about, is if I know what you're looking for, and that goes for all the alumni too. If you're looking to change jobs or looking for something different, and you come to the Success Center and tell me that, then when that comes up, I can connect you to that employer. Tote Maritime is a great example of this. Donna there will call me regularly and say, can you help me find a person that has this? And the next day, oddly, so an alumni called me and said, I've been in retail since I graduated. I really am ready now to change. I mean, it was, timing is everything. And she called me, and I set up an interview with her and Tote, and she's still there today. So if I know what you're looking, it was similar to Kevin. Kevin and I ran into each other. I knew he hadn't landed anything yet. It was after our Excel class, so it was running into each other in Tacoma. But I knew he was looking, and if you're looking to change, we can help you with that. Most likely. I mean, it's really, really about timing. Same, and we're developing new internships too with companies. Sound Credit Union is one of those. We're working on brand new internship programs that we'll be able to launch soon. And that doesn't really go hand in hand with what I was just talking about, but it's important that if you're working for an employer that is thinking they need an intern, thinking about, even if it's a small internship program or if it's a significant large one, we can help develop those. And that is something that is very enjoyable for us to do. And then we help find students for those roles.
Wonderful. Thank you, Trish. We have a couple more questions from our audience. So for our panelists, what do you wish you would have done differently as you approached your final year as a student, whether that was your undergraduate or your graduate degree program? I'll give you a minute to think about that, since it's a tough question.
Right away what I would have done different. I would have spent a lot more time studying Excel is what I would have done different. I'm just telling you. So I'm sure there's a few of us that realize that after the fact, but that was one of I would have done that.
It's a good one. We can always do better. Yes, Philemon?
Yeah, I would have, I know I reached out to Trish and Sally on time, but I would have done it earlier, because I think So when I went before, I didn't really know what I wanted to do after school. So I thought maybe, but I know that even when I went to them, it was quite late, but they still talk to me about my passions and my interests. And, we were just having, conversations because they knew that I wasn't still sure of what to do, right? And, they just got it right out of me, for me to realize what I really wanted, right? So I think if I'd gone to them earlier, I would have gotten it way before, that time that I went to them, and probably I would have landed this job that I'm doing way before, So I think going to them as soon as possible, even if you don't know I think someone mentioned that, even if you don't know what you want to do, right? Just go to them, just talk to them virtually now, right? So talk to them, send them, ideas or your passions or interests, and they will just help you kind of, figure it out, and then, so that you just, you don't delay yourself, in landing something. Yeah. So.
That's a great point, Philemon. But we've really struggled with engagement with students. We're getting better. We've established the Milgard Gold program, but getting students to come in and talk to us early. I did just talk to a freshman student last week, and it was fabulous because I now get to work with him hopefully for 4 years and watch him grow. We do have a few that start early, but how would you recommend that we get students in earlier? People are busy in school, they're busy in their jobs, they're busy with their families. How do we do better at getting everybody in the door? And we've got about 50%. I think that's pretty good, but it's not good enough. Any ideas?
I'm flabbergasted that they're not taking advantage of the Success Center. They didn't have a Success Center when I graduated, and it was the middle of the Great Recession. It was really hard to make a career change. Didn't have the support that you're providing. These folks are coming in the middle of a really challenging economic environment, and just the support that you can have, it can really make the difference between success. You're the Success Center. And so I'm going to go on mute now after that, and I'm going to noodle that problem.
That's a tough one. I think events like these, where we hear from alumni who have compelling stories about how the Success Center has made a difference in their life, is a really good start. So as you all think about that, about how to encourage our current students to come see Trish and Sally, we have another question from the audience for Trish about how alumni can help the Success Center and how they can help Milgard students.
Well, I love that question, because this group here has been really helpful to me already. And it's about engagement. So I would love for alumni to be available to come to the classrooms. We are going to be running in winter quarter, we're starting a career class. This is one more way to capture those students. They'll have to sign up for it. It's a 2-credit class, winter quarter. And we'll have speakers come in. And the best speakers are ones from industry that can tell them what it's like to be out there working. I'd also love to be able to do some, informationals are nice, but job shadowing, once we get back into the world as we knew it, job shadows would be fabulous if alumni could invite us into their offices. Students don't know what it's like to be in a business environment. And I mean, you may just be sitting at a computer doing Excel all day, but they need to see that. They need to see interactions. A lot of the local accounting firms in particular were inviting us to visit their companies. And that would be Moss Adams and RSM, and we'd go, especially during the holidays. That won't happen again this year, but it's inviting students to come, but coming and speaking at Lunch and Learns, we call them Zoom and Learns now, coming to engaging your employer wherever you work and bringing your employer to us and recruit our students, letting us know how our students are doing. If there's something you see missing in the recruitment, we would love to know about it. So alumni can help in so many ways. We normally have an etiquette dinner right now in November. It would be coming up next week. This year we won't have it. We may have it in spring. And then we have sponsorships, and you get to sit at a table with 8 undergrads. And it's the most fun event because they're so nervous to learn how to be in a business setting. And we need business people at those tables. So all of those ways that you can help, and any other ways that you'd like to think about would be great to me.
Great, thank you, Trish. That's wonderful. I'll also put a plug in for some new thing that we're trying out this quarter with our MBA students. So MBA alums on the call. Joel is participating tomorrow. Thank you, Joel. We're doing some MBA alumni conversations with current MBA students, and we may expand this to other programs in the future, but I invite you and your past classmates to contact me if you'd like to talk to our MBA students sometime over lunch. Trish, do you have any other upcoming events, perhaps? I know you mentioned the etiquette dinner that hopefully will take place in spring, fingers crossed. Is there anything else, so speakers or anything else that we should be aware of that we could share with our panelists? I know you mentioned the Success Conference, or when you expect to have dates for that.
Yeah, I don't have a date for that. We do have our February internship fair coming up, and normally we have the employers that come. Last year we had 35 employers come, and at those tables are alumni that are recruiting our students. So it'll be a virtual fair. We did our first virtual fair in October. It went pretty well after the first half hour with technical glitches and appointments. We did it through Handshake. And so it was a very good learning experience. Not for everyone, but they tracked everything. So we had 270 interactions. So if you're willing to let a student do an informational, I would like to know about that. Those can be on email. I'm happy to introduce students. If you know a student that you're looking for, or a type, or if you're in management, seem to be low on management alumni right now. We've got a lot of accounting. We've got quite a few finance, but we're a little light on management. We've got quite a few marketing too. So if you're a management alumni, I would love to engage your help in coming and speaking to students on how you've used your management career, how you've used your management degree in your career. We had a fabulous management panel at the Success Conference last year, but going back to the same people over and over again, I just feel bad. I want more alumni involved in this, and hope that we can grow that.
Great. All right, I'm going to ask the audience out there, if you have any other questions, please email them in now. We only have a few minutes left. I'll now open it up to the panelists. If you have other thoughts that you have that have occurred to you as we've been talking, any follow-ups on advice for students, questions about how to get involved, now is your chance to ask those.
I do want to just mention real quick, I'm now sitting with the Tacoma chapter of the Washington Society for CPAs. I, again, would just encourage everybody to get involved in any organization, any professional organizations, within the school or outside of the school as a student, just because it'll always give you opportunities to talk to other people that are in these fields that you may want to get into, or even, find information about, of course, job leads, but also just work life. How does that go for people? There's a lot to find out from a peer group that's expanded into this professional group that you're exploring. So again, I would just say get involved if you can. The WSCPA has an event coming up soon that's a virtual painting event like Bob Ross style, but take a look at the website. There's awesome opportunities for students to reach out and start connecting to people in the community. And I would certainly encourage you to do so. But the Paint and Sip event that we're doing is coming up soon in November, the first week of November. So join us. It'll be fun. We can keep talking.
Great. Thank you, Deanne. We're closing in on the end of our panel, so I'm going to pass it back to Trish. But first, I'd love to say thank you to each and every one of you for participating. You are what make these events great. So please continue to stay engaged. We love hearing from you, and you'll probably hear from Trish and me in the future. So back to you, Trish.
Thank you, Ellen. This has been fun. Thank you so much for participating tonight. It is night now. And it's getting dark. It gets dark early. I think Joel is still outside, so we can see what the light is like. Thank you so much for helping us again. I think this goes a long way to the loyalty that you show to the Milgard School, and it will really help the Success Center get better. And I'd love to open, feedback to the Success Center. What can we do better? And what do you need, or what aren't we doing well? It would be wonderful to hear from you about that. So we are still growing, and I think Althoff put that well. So with his Frank Sinatra lyric. So thanks again, and thanks to all the audience out there for coming tonight. We can't see you, but we know you're there, and thank you for listening to us, and reach out to me or Sally. I'm Trish Z at uw.edu. Very easy. Send me an email with questions. I'm happy to answer, or go to the Milgard Success Center website for all the resource links that are available to you as a student and an alumni.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.